The first thing I learned about prison wasn't the cold steel or the locked doors. It was silence. The kind that eats you alive when you realize the man who put you there was the same man who once kissed your forehead before work. Marcus Holloway stood in the courtroom that day wearing a tailored navy suit, his hands folded, his face calm. The jury saw a respected real estate developer, a philanthropist, a family man. They didn't see my husband. I stood shackled, accused of embezzling millions from our joint foundation, money that funded housing projects across Southside Chicago. Evidence stacked neatly against me. Bank transfers, forged signatures, shell accounts. All of it immaculate. All of it fake. I searched Marcus's eyes as the verdict was read. Guilty. He never flinched. 2 years in a women's correctional facility for a crime I didn't commit. 2 years because his mistress, Veronica Lane, wanted my life. Veronica had slid into our marriage quietly. A consultant. Younger, sharper, always smiling too hard. She admired Marcus openly, laughed at jokes I'd heard for 20 years. I didn't realize she was studying me. By the time I confronted him, it was already over. "I need you to take the fall," Marcus had said the night before my arrest, his voice low, steady. "Just for a little while." I laughed, thought it was a joke. Then he showed me the files. My name, everywhere. "Veronica made some mistakes," he continued. "But if this comes out, everything we built collapses. I'll make sure you're taken care of, quietly." That was the moment I understood the power imbalance. He had money, lawyers, influence. I had love, and it meant nothing. Prison stripped me down to survival. Moldy walls, screaming nights, guards who didn't care, women who sensed weakness like blood in water. But pain has a way of sharpening the mind. I read everything. Law books, financial crime cases, asset recovery loopholes. I listened when women talked about husbands, businesses, trusts, offshore accounts. And I remembered something Marcus forgot. Before we were rich, before the suits and galas, before Veronica, I was the one who structured the foundation. I was the one who signed the original trust documents. And prison gave me time to remember every single detail. The day I was released, Marcus planned a celebration. He didn't realize he was planning his own funeral.
2 years later, the gates opened. No apology, no explanation, just a box with my belongings and a bus ticket. Outside, Chicago looked brighter, louder, crueler. Marcus was everywhere. Billboards showed him cutting ribbons at luxury developments. Magazine covers praised his resilience after my betrayal. Veronica stood beside him now, polished, pregnant, glowing in designer beige. They'd erased me. I didn't go home. I went to a motel on the south side and turned on the TV. That's when I saw it. The Holloway Legacy Tower. Built on land owned by our foundation. My foundation. I smiled for the first time in 2 years, because Marcus had made one fatal assumption, that prison erased me. What he didn't know was that during my sentencing, I never lost my legal designation as founding trustee. My conviction removed me from public operations, not ownership rights embedded in a dormant clause no one bothered to revisit, a clause Marcus never read. That night, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to a forensic accountant I'd met inside, wrongfully convicted like me, brilliant, bitter, and free on appeal. The second was to a civil rights attorney who specialized in wrongful convictions. The third was to the foundation's bank. "I need a status report," I said calmly. "I'm the original trustee." There was a pause. Then, panic. Over the next weeks, I moved quietly. I filed petitions, triggered audits, requested compliance reviews tied to my name. The dominoes started trembling. Marcus noticed when his credit line froze mid-negotiation, when donors backed out, when banks demanded documentation he couldn't open without opening old files. Veronica panicked first. She reached out to me on social media. "You should let go," she wrote. "Marcus gave you grace." Grace. I saved the message, because revenge isn't rage. It's timing.
The audit exposed everything. Shell companies Veronica used to siphon funds, false invoices, a web of fraud that led straight to Marcus's signature. He'd blamed me once. Now the truth needed a new body. I watched the press conference from my motel bed. Marcus stood stiff, sweat darkening his collar as reporters shouted questions. "Did you knowingly falsify documents? Is your wife involved?" Veronica wasn't beside him anymore. She'd been detained that morning, but I wasn't finished. I filed a civil suit for wrongful imprisonment, armed with evidence of coercion, threats, and financial manipulation. Prison recordings, emails, the deal he offered me the night before my arrest. The same emails he thought were deleted. The courtroom felt different this time. This time, I stood unshackled. Marcus couldn't look at me. The judge ruled swiftly. Assets frozen, properties seized, the foundation placed under emergency control. Mine. Then came the final move. I withdrew my name from every project bearing his legacy. The Holloway Tower lost its funding overnight. Construction stopped. Contracts dissolved. His empire collapsed in public, piece by piece. But the final humiliation? I visited him. Not in a boardroom, in a holding cell. "I survived the cage you built," I told him quietly. "Now live in the one you earned." He cried. I didn't. Marcus took a plea deal. Veronica testified against him. I walked free, financially restored, publicly vindicated, emotionally scarred, but unbroken. The foundation reopened under my leadership. This time, it funded legal aid for wrongfully convicted women. Every press interview ended the same way. "What do you feel now?" they asked. I smiled. Peace. Because the real revenge wasn't prison. It was watching him lose everything while I rebuilt mine. Clean, powerful, untouchable. He stole 2 years of my life. I took his future.